there, future LearnTalk teacher. Welcome back.
It's good to see you again.
Today's session is all about our teaching techniques, so pay close attention.
Since you only have a limited amount of time with your student, it's important that they quickly adjust and respond to these techniques. You should engage them using our communication tips and ask them clear and lively prompt questions.
Teaching target language to our students is hinged on asking these questions, a big differentiator that makes LearnTalk unique.
Remember to not get frustrated with your student if it takes a while for them to answer. If they don't understand, read their body language and simplify the question or choose another technique. By the end of this session, you should be able to use these techniques to teach your student in an engaging, lively, and natural way. Here's a look at the different techniques we use. 1. Labeling. 2. Canceling. 3. Swapping. 4. Polaring. 5. Expanding. 6. Mind maps. 7. Role plays.
Each of these techniques come with their individual strengths and can help present specific kinds of language to the student more effectively. We'll explain which of them works best for certain types of target language and show a demonstration for each technique in action.
Let's get started with labeling. One of the universal things that we share across cultures, maybe one of the things that make us human, is the desire to name things around us. That's basically what labeling is. It's pointing to a visual reference and saying, this is a chair, this is a girl, this is a boy. Can you repeat that?
It's our most basic teaching technique, yet comes in handy when you need to quickly provide the meaning of nouns like numbers, countries, colors, objects, and basically anything that can be seen in a picture.
Let's take a look at this technique in action.
Jiro, this is a taxi. Can you repeat?
This is a taxi.
This is a bus.
This is a bus.
Good job. What's this?
This is a taxi.
What's this?
This is a bus.
Notice how the teacher asks the student to repeat? That's actually quite important, since you can correct most pronunciation errors right away. The goal with this technique, though, is for a smooth transition, so don't take too long on correction if you think it'll distract your student.
Labeling is mostly used to set up the initial context or vocabulary base for you to start introducing new language. Since it's limited to the number of pictures in the student guide, it's usually used in the beginning of the lesson or direct phase.
Lastly, don't forget to make sure your student answers in full sentences. Don't let them say the vocab word, but mirror your example. This is a bus.
This is a bus.
I think you get the point.
Yes. Let's move on to the next one. One of my favorites, canceling.
Yes, canceling is basically when a teacher asks a series of related questions that force the student to respond with a negative answer. This creates a situation where the new language can be introduced in context, because a repeated set of negative answers automatically creates this tension for students to want to know the answer, which of course is the new target phrase or word.
Might sound a little confusing right now, but I'm sure after watching this demonstration, you'll get the gist. Here we go.
Jiro, is this an airplane?
No, it isn't.
Is this a bus?
No, it isn't.
What is it?
What is it?
It's a taxi.
What is it?
Good.
Take a look at how the buildup of questions creates this need-to-know moment that is obviously reflected in Jiro's responses. That's the best time to introduce a phrase where it's wrapped into the meaning. Take a look at how the buildup of questions creates this need-to-know moment that is obviously reflected in Jiro's responses. That's the best time to introduce a phrase where it's wrapped into the meaning.
You can think of it like you're putting in a piece of a puzzle. You've got a string of pieces that you've got to put together, and you intentionally leave a gap, allowing the student to see where the new language fits. and how it's used in conversation.
That's right. Actually, a lot of our target vocabulary is introduced with this technique. As you read through our teacher's guides, most of the questions are designed to create this gap to which you then present the language to the student for them to understand without you explaining anything directly.
That's why the questions usually build on each other to create this gap. Now, another effective technique that uses this gap and helps build the student's vocabulary range is called swapping.
That's right, Bianca. This technique is best used when introducing words or phrases that are synonyms of words already known by the student.
It's actually quite simple in theory. However, you'll have to be very careful with the timing if you want this technique to make an impact.
Since it's primarily used to introduce new adjectives, adverbs, and qualities, swapping involves getting the student to use a specific word, then repeating that word and immediately introducing the new synonym within the context of the conversation.
Let's take a look at how this is done in practice.
Is Bill Gates rich?
Yes.
Jiro, can you say that in a full sentence, please?
Bill Gates is rich.
Yes, Bill Gates is rich, or you can say Bill Gates is wealthy. Can you repeat that?
Bill Gates is rich.
Yes, Bill Gates is rich, or Bill Gates is wealthy. Who else is wealthy? Is the Queen of England wealthy?
Yes, she is.
The key to getting this technique to work is in getting the student's attention when you say the word or. This creates a cue for them to follow in the future.
Overall, it's an effective way to introduce vocabulary. Just make sure that the base word in the last example, rich, is understood by your student before you introduce any of its synonyms, since the technique works best with 2 words.
Another technique that we use to introduce words and phrases that work in pairs is called polaring. This technique is most effective at teaching words or phrases that are opposites. For examples, words like fast, slow, big, small, or get on and get off, any opposites really.
Similar to swapping, the key to getting this technique right is to make sure the student understands the base word first. You can do this by using labeling or swapping to introduce the first word in the pair of opposites, and then use it to build up the context to introduce the second word.
Again, sounds simple in theory, but let's see how it plays out when teaching. Take a look at this demo.
Jiro, do you bring your children to school in the morning?
Yes, I do.
You bring your children to school, or you drop off your children in the morning?
I drop off my children at the morning.
At the morning or in the morning?
In the morning.
Full sentence again, please.
I drop off my children in the morning.
How about in the afternoon? Do you get your children from school?
Yes, I do.
You get your children from school, or you pick up your children from school. What time do you pick up your children from school?
I pick up my children from school at 2 p.m.
See how that works? Best when used with opposites. Give it a shot whenever you need to teach a pair of them.
Alright, Bianca, we're getting down to the last couple of techniques together. The next one is what we call expanding, since it introduces new language by building on concepts already known by the student, linking them together logically.
Since most lessons are conversations, you might have to stop and introduce these kinds of words to the student in order to progress to the next phase.
Ideally, this technique is best used to introduce conjunctions, pronouns, conditionals, and transitions. Basically any word or phrase that links 2 phrases together.
Let's take a look at how it works.
Jiro, please put your hands in your pockets like this.
Okay.
Are they in your pockets?
Yes, they are.
Can you pick up your pen right now?
No, I can't.
No, you can't pick up your pen because your hands are in your pockets.
In this example, the teacher physically demonstrates actions to set the context of the word. The context for the new language is created by connecting the two concepts.
We hope you get the hang of that. Conjunctions and transitions are crucial parts of a student's ability to voice several related thoughts.
That's right. We also have another technique that is very helpful at connecting several related thoughts together. In fact, this technique visually links them for your student, so they can go back to it for reference when asked to repeat.
This technique is called mind mapping. It's a simple yet highly effective tool. It can be used to introduce pretty much any new vocabulary, and it's best used as a platform for teaching higher level words or grammar structures.
An effective mind map looks like a bunch of thought bubbles linked together. Say your goal is to introduce the different types of sections in a department store. Since all these vocabulary words like menswear, jewelry, children's clothes, electronics, etc. are all related, you want to teach them to your student in a group. This is where mind mapping is useful.
You start off by writing down a very general topic, such as shopping, on the board and then circling it.
After circling it, your goal is to add to the board whatever related responses your student gives you. In order to get that, you'll have to ask them questions. Questions like, where do you go shopping in the city?
Since this is an open-ended question, your student will most likely provide more than one answer. And as they're providing them, you want to start to write them down around the topic. Say your student names a place where they like to shop. You can write down the category, places to shop, and circle it.
Then you can build on these by asking, how do you pay when you shop? As your student names things like credit card, cash, check, etc., you can write down another category like payment methods.
To bring it back to the targeted language, you can point to the places to shop bubble and ask, do you have a favorite place to shop where everything you're looking for is in one place? Remember, you're trying to elicit mall or department store.
That's right. Remember that your role throughout this process is to facilitate and elicit vocabulary already known by your student. You are a facilitator.
Don't forget that you shouldn't ever turn your back to the student. This will kill momentum and can ruin a good mind map.
Also, don't forget to always set the goals in the beginning of the lesson so that your student has an idea of what kind of words they'll be learning.
All right, we're down to our last and most important teaching technique, role plays. Now, we've talked about these already, but today we will break down the elements of an effective role play and teach you how to set one up. After all, they serve a lot of functions here, and it's important that you master them.
As the main ingredient to the showtime phase of each lesson, role plays allow the student to use newly learned language in real-life conversations.
As a teaching technique, role plays are unscripted conversations between a student and a teacher. At LearnTalk, each of the role plays have two characters. The student will play the role of the primary character who has to accomplish a task, and the teacher will play the role of the other character.
The first part to getting this technique correct is to clearly set a time limit so students' expectations are set. Also, if time permits, alternate roles with the student and go through the situation again.
This will allow the student to practice both roles and all the target language of that lesson.
Aside from the time limit, you'll need to remember a few other things when setting up the role play. Since this is vital to checking if the student has learned the target language, you must do the following. Before, make sure that the student is familiar with the target language beforehand. Read the role play situation out loud and assign the role of the student. Give the role play a time limit and make sure the student is aware of it. During, act out the situation. Make it as realistic as possible. Note any habitual mistakes throughout the role play. Prompt questions to redirect and ensure the student stays on task. After, ask students how they think they did and encourage them to critique themselves. Give positive feedback. Encourage students to identify any errors they've made. Encourage students to say what they would do differently. Draw attention to habitual mistakes briefly. And lastly, focus on vocabulary and expressions they could have used. Well, that's it for the teaching techniques. We've gone through quite a few of them, Bianca. Also, these examples are provided in the instruction manual for your reference as well.
Well, bye for now.
Goodbye.